will feel like that too. Even if you've just come out of a difficult meeting that's given you a lot to think about, and even if the next thing in your diary is another meeting that you're apprehensive about, you need to be 100% present for that person in front of you. You can't fake paying attention. If you're not 100% present, the other person will notice. Make sure that your own body language is open and responsive so that you're conveying a message that you're ready to listen to the other person and that you want to hear what they've got to say. One of the main motivators for most people in the work situation is that they feel valued and listened to. Also, put yourself in the shoes of the other person or people that you're speaking to. Imagine how they want to be treated and how you can deliver your message in a way that they will be most receptive to. Imagine how your decisions will affect them and their likely emotional responses. Again, it's not quite as simple as thinking, how would I want to be treated in this situation? Because people have different personalities. If you know your audience, if you know the other person that you're speaking to, the other people that are affected by your decisions, you can get some ideas of how they're likely to respond. So take a moment to put yourself in their shoes. Imagine that you're them. How are you going to feel hearing this message or being on the receiving end of this decision? Finally, some ways that you can enhance your relationship management skills. I'd encourage you to look at your relationship with each employee or in your team or each colleague as being like an emotional bank account. Sometimes if you need them to put in some extra effort to meet a deadline or to deal with a crisis, you're going to want to make a withdrawal from that bank account, which is only going to work if you've put something into the account previously. So here are some ways that you can build up your emotional bank account with your team members. Recognize and support them as individuals. People want to feel valued, and some people need more feedback and encouragement than others. Again, we go into how you can find out how much feedback they need in to overcome challenges. It's not enough to have a vision as a leader. You have to enthuse people with it. Find out the values that motivate your people and show them ways in which the vision fulfills those values. If the vision is linked to their values, they will feel motivated to make it happen. They'll identify with it. And last, be a consistent role model. If there's a clash between what you're saying and what you're doing, people will believe what you're doing. So walk your talk. And finally, let's have a look at a simple format for bringing your emotional intelligence to bear on any problem or decision that you face. So here's the emotional intelligence quadrant again. Almost any issue, problem or challenge is going to involve other people and their emotions. And of course your emotional state affects your chances of success. Situations could be making a sale to an important customer, deciding between two opportunities that conflict, introducing significant changes to your team, dealing with difficult people, resolving conflict between team members. Almost any problem that arises at work, there are going to be other people and emotions involved. So you're more likely to succeed whatever the issue if you pay attention to the emotions involved, where you want those emotions to be, and how to get them there. So going back to our 4-quadrant model, we consider the situation from the perspective of each quadrant in turn. It's always best to start with yourself and start with self-awareness. So the questions you'd ask facing any challenge are, what am I feeling about this? And where did those feelings come from? How did those feelings arise? And because emotions carry information, what information are these feelings carrying? Or you might ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? From there, depending on how strongly you feel about the situation, you might want to go to social awareness after that, or you might want to go to self-management first. So if it's a situation that you feel angry or anxious about to the point where it's getting in the way of your thinking skills and your cognitive capacities, you might want to go straight to self-management from there. So ask yourself, what do you want to feel? What do you need to do in order to feel that way? Because there are some emotional states that are more conducive to solving problems than others. So if it's a really difficult problem, determined to resolve it would be a better state than angry or anxious, for example. What do you need to do in order to feel that way? Maybe you need to get some additional information, maybe you need to change your work patterns slightly, maybe you need to get advice from other people. You won't know until you ask yourself that question, what's the best thing to do to manage your emotional state before you actually try and tackle the problem. Moving to the social awareness quadrant, consider the other people involved in this issue, in this situation. So, for example, if it's a job interview, put yourself in the shoes of the people on the interview panel. If you're giving a presentation, put yourself in the shoes of the audience. If you're making a sale, put yourself in the shoes of the customer and ask yourself, what is the other person feeling? And where did those feelings come from? How did those feelings arise? If you have different stakeholders in the issue, you may want to do it separately for each separate person involved. If it's people you've not met before and they're in a group like an interview panel or an audience for a presentation, you can treat them as a collective. So what are those people feeling? How did those feelings arise? So when you've got to that stage, ideally you know what you're feeling about it, you understand the message, that any message that those feelings are trying to give you, you have an idea of how you want to feel in that situation, and you have an idea of what you need to do in order to feel that way. You also have some awareness, or some guess anyway, which you'll have to confirm by observing what they actually say and do, of how the other people involved are feeling and perhaps where those feelings came from, so that you can make sense of them. So finally, in the relationship management quadrant, you ask, how do I want these other people to feel? And of course you can't make other people feel the way that you want. Life would be very easy for you if you could. What you can do though is do your very best to behave and create the conditions in which it's possible or easier for them to feel that way. So the next question there is, what do you need to do in order for these other people to feel the way that you want them to feel? I'm not saying that applying these questions to every issue or every problem or every decision will automatically give you an answer easily. What it will do is increase your awareness, give you some ideas as to how other people are likely to react, and probably give you some ideas about what you need to do in order to make that situation better, or to gather the information that you need for the next step. So it's a model that you can use straight away in any situation that's a challenge or a problem. Okay, so that is the content of the webinar. I've actually got no idea at all at the moment how we're doing for time here, but I'm sure Ali, who is organizing this for Mile, will have an idea. So
yes, we're doing good. Ali, we have taken about 40 minutes. Fair enough.
Okay.
So, are we open for the Q&A?
Okay, so we have 20 minutes for any questions you may have.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Andy. Folks, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. There's a hand icon on your webinar console, so if you click on it, I'll be able to give you an opportunity to speak to Andy. Or equally, you could put your questions in the chat box, question box. I'll be happy to read them over on your behalf. I see there are already a few hands been raised, so let me go.
Okay.
And kindly please be precise, brief with your question, and do introduce yourself. So let me go ahead first. Mr. Brother Tariq Salim, can you hear us? Could you please introduce yourself and ask the question?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Hello?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, great. My name is Tariq Salim. I'm a faculty of economics at the American University in Cairo. And it's been a very interesting webinar.
Thank you.
I have put some questions. If Ali would like to mention them after my current question. The quadrant seemed to have a fixed kind of self versus social in terms of awareness and management. How do you think this kind of distinction can be blurred a little bit in some social-centric societies like in the Middle East, where actually self-awareness and self-motivation could be actually a function of social awareness and social motivation, in a sense that there has to be some kind of social consensus in terms of acting in a certain direction. How can this relate to what we're talking about right now? So.
This is a fascinating question. Thank you. Yeah, I should just say actually that I'm connected to the internet via satellite link, so there's a little bit of what they call a latency delay while what I'm saying goes up to the satellite and comes back down again, and of course the other way with the signals coming back. So do excuse me if there's a little bit of a delay here. Yeah, so okay. Yes, this model originates in the West, which as we know is a more kind of individualistic society than some others around the world, where perhaps there's more emphasis on the individual and less on the family and the wider community. I would say that the distinction between self and other is still meaningful, but you could, for example, apply the questions in the quadrant on that last slide that's still on the screen. You could, for example, make the left-hand side of it, what are we feeling, and how do we want other stakeholders to feel. Beyond that, values and motivations may originate more with social groups, with society, with family, rather than necessarily just coming from within the individual, but they are still there in the individual, and the individual the emotional reactions happen within the individual. So I think it is still very relevant. I'm sorry to, that's about all I can say, but it's a very deep question. I'd have to think a lot about it, I think, and probably engage in quite a lot more dialogue with people as well to really come up with a totally satisfactory answer to that one, because it is a big question. Does that help at all?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay, great. Ali, who's up next?